You are now listening to the CarLifestyle podcast.
With host
Seth Rose from Exotics Rally.
Elizabeth White from It's White Noise.
CarLifestyle.
Welcome back to the CarLifestyle podcast. I am Seth Rose from Exotics Rally. I'm joined by my co-host, Elizabeth White from
It's White Noise. Hey guys, how are you?
And today we are being hosted in Miami. We are at a very special place called Curated. And our guest today is John Temerian Jr.
Yes.
Okay. Welcome, John.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks for your hospitality
coming.
here. This is pretty cool.
Of course.
The space is really amazing.
Yeah, to give people an idea, you kind of looks like a showroom from the street, but it's a lot more than that. And what's encapsulated inside the showroom is pretty fucking stunning.
Can we actually go over the cars that are on your showroom floor right now?
Of course. So right now we've actually we got some pretty cool inventory. We have a 1994 Bugatti EB110.
Epic.
Which, yeah, I mean, honestly, I had never seen one in person before until we bought this car.
How long have you had it?
We probably like a month.
Yeah, a friend of mine has one in California, in LA.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So I fell over when, like, just seeing it come off the truck. It's like, you know, you sort of take off your business hat and you become a 5-year-old again, and you're like playing on your bedroom floor. But so we have that. Probably I would say besides that, our showpiece is our Miura SV.
The M1. Let's talk about the M1. I've always wanted one.
So the M1, it's got an incredible history. It actually came from a gentleman who was working as a press representative, writing books around the world. He was a journalist, had done some work for BMW, and the South African dealer actually gave him the opportunity to purchase the car. He owned it. Basically, he's the original owner. It's got 13,000 original kilometers.
Wow.
And it has like all the old stickers, press stickers, like
So
books,
did
records.
You imported the car, or
No,
it was
actually,
here on US
he
soil?
of all places, it was down the street. You never know.
That's the best.
Yeah, and when we got a call on it probably about 2 months ago, and I thought it was a joke. It actually came through Instagram. A friend of mine. And he's like, a good friend of mine's father has this BMW with no miles. I'm like, okay.
Let's check it out, see what it is.
Still has his imprint
Sure
on the
as
seat.
shit, it's the M1, right?
And it was like, when he said M1, I was like, you mean 1M? Like,
Yeah, right.
like what? Yeah. But no, an M1, and very, very cool car, even sort of a era radio installed with all the Blaupunkt speakers, which is cool. We have which is probably my favorite car here because of its context and history, is the Countach Downdraft, European spec with 5,000 original miles. Very cool car. We have a 360 Spider. That's a manual car with 5,000 miles, but it was new to Juan Pablo Montoya. So it's a cool history, cool car. We actually had Montoya here to take photos with the car, which was cool. We've got an original 560 SL AMG car that was built by AMG North America that we purchased from the original owner. That car is like 20-something thousand miles. Cool car, super 80s. We love 80s.
Yeah.
We have going backwards, an XJ220. How could I forget that?
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Right.
447 mile car that we just sold, and we just bought another one with 1,000 miles, another silver. So we're going to try to do a photo shoot of the two cars. We have also, again, one of my favorites is the purple Diablo SC30.
Yes.
Great color.
Right?
Yeah, I spotted it as we were pulling in. I almost hit the wall. I was like, wait a second.
It's cool. My father actually used to own that car, that actual car.
Oh, wow. So,
and he was a little obsessed with SEs for a long time. So we have like the original factory records, and we tracked everyone. So there's like really 8 cars in the US ever made in purple. So it's a cool car, piece of history. Then we have sort of on the modern side, we have a new Ford GT. Well, I should say the 05-06 Ford GT with 100 miles. The SL65 Black Series, which I think is completely undervalued. Very cool car.
Yeah.
Same.
German
Love
muscle
that
car.
Right? All carbon. It's cool. And then a 575M with 2,000 original miles from the original owner. that is just, I mean, it's like in stunning condition. Too bad it's not a manual, but what are you going to do?
Yeah, can't have everything, but
Can't have everything.
definitely try.
And then we've got like an NSX. We've got some other cars, like all low miles, really cool stuff.
So let's go over a little history. You're John Temerian Jr.
Yes.
So there's a senior,
Yes.
and then there's your grandfather who kind of started everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little about your grandfather?
So he immigrated from France, Armenian descent, immigrated from France, ended up in Boston, Massachusetts. He came here with 2 kids, a wife, and was started working at a gas station. He really didn't have much. And he was an incredible engineer. He one day worked his way up in the gas station. The bank was actually taking the gas station. He had saved enough cash to actually buy what was left of this gas station and turned it into a place called Springfield Sports Cars. And also it was called, actually, funny enough, Medical Center Garage, because it was next to a medical center building. So back in the day, this was probably in like the early 60s, he started to do pretty well for himself. And he started to buy cars from Luigi Cinetti that were like not running, like the leftover stuff that they didn't want anymore. So at one point he ended up with a Lusso. He ended up actually with the Surtees right-hand drive 250 GTO, and some really incredible cars. And it was funny. It was like one car wasn't running right, and it was like a timing issue, and the timing chain had actually skipped a link. And so he was an incredible engineer, and
So he would basically troubleshoot a lot of cars that people just gave up on.
Yes, yeah.
And wound up scoring them.
And he started selling them. He would fix it and sell it, fix it and sell it. And it's cool because if you look at like old Ferrari records, you see like a lot of his old clients with these incredible cars. Like you'll see a name, Bob Sowers, he owned this and that was one of his clients. And it's funny, photos go from like the early 60s and then the late 60s, you see like he actually made money. Like he did well for himself. Right. My father's first car was actually a Lamborghini Miura. At
That's
16
nice.
years old, and
Not bad.
And my father was supposed to be a stockbroker, and he was about to start at Payne and Weber, and he told my grandfather, I love cars too much. I can't do this.
So it's in the Temerian blood.
Yeah.
It's in the blood, and so he
And that carried on to you. He carried on the name with the automotive world.
Yeah, he ended up becoming, at one point, I would say in the 80s, like one of the top technicians for Lamborghinis and Countach models specifically, to the point where he would troubleshoot all the cars.
Which was rare to find. That was the thing. I mean, we say it all the time on the podcast, but back then, owning a Countach, you had to be like an oil chic. You know, you had to be some sort of royalty. And, you know, it was unlimited what people would pay to have them maintained or repaired because there was nobody else to do it.
There wasn't. And growing up, I got to say, it was probably the most interesting experience to be around. I mean, one day there was like 21 or 22 Countaches at his place. And
Which is like unheard of.
Unheard of,
You know, today you find Gallardo's parked on a city street.
Yeah, it's true.
It's crazy. But back then, I mean, you never saw them.
Never.
They're non-existent.
Never. Yeah.
Cool. So you growing up, you're around all this, loving it.
It's funny. Like you hit a point. I was probably like 17, 18. Everyone rebels at some point in their life, and I rebelled, and I was like, I want nothing to do with cars, and I went out into the marketing world, and I started like promoting nightclubs, all these stupid gigs that you.
That's what you do when you're young.
Exactly. And
well, what was your first car then? Dad had a Miura. I mean, shit.
You know what? You're gonna laugh. I actually, and it was like, to me, it was the end all be all. It was a CLK 430. I'll never forget. It was a 2001 CLK 430, which to me was.
That was a hot car.
That was a hot car. A hot car. And so I went on my own. I started promoting nightclubs, and I realized that
found yourself hungover a lot. And,
But was this in Miami?
This was in Palm Beach, thankfully.
Palm Beach.
If it was in Miami, I'd be dead.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay.
Miami or Vegas, you'd be in rehab, jail, or dead. It's only 3 places you wind up. It's crazy.
Maybe
True.
all three.
Yeah,
All three.
The trifecta.
So I
You got
did,
saved by the automotive industry.
Amen. Yes, and so it's sort of funny circumstance. I realized that my real talent was I mean, I grew up around all these owners and these cars. I knew everything about certain cars. Like I knew someone would say, oh, I saw a red Countach in Chicago. And I'd be like, oh, that's this guy. I knew the guy. My dad sold him wheels or...
Wait, this is amazing because this is pre-Instagram and Facebook and car spotters. So you really had to know them and you can't just be like, oh, my good friend XYZ on Instagram.
Yeah, no, you got to know the history and the people behind it.
It's true. And I laugh I'm not the most talented guy or, whatever. But for me, that's what I knew best. Like I had like an encyclopedia memory for VIN numbers. I don't know, like cars. And it was weird, So I was actually in a real estate meeting. I wanted to work for a real estate company because real estate was booming. I was like, okay, let's try to make some money here. And it was probably 2004. And it was actually Donald Trump was actually trying to promote it was the world's most expensive real estate listing. It was the Gosman estate for 120 million or 121 million. And they were looking for ways to pre-qualify people. And I said, wow, we should do like a supercar event of supercar owners. And I literally just started like naming off guys. I was like, oh, there's this guy Musa and this guy Muller, and he has this and he has that. We can invite him, and this car's 400,000. And they probably had no idea what I was talking about, but they were impressed. And they let me, his team and the real estate company let me run with it. And it was it was called Palm Beach Supercar Weekend. And it was this event at the estate, and actually, it was insane. Imagine I was probably like 17 at the time, and this was in 04. We had 2 Carrera GTs, the CLK DTM, Enzos. Yeah. It was like, it was wild, made front page of all the local papers. It got a lot of good press in the automotive world, and that's really sort of where my career in the automotive world started, and sort of I ran with that.
So this is probably never happened before you did this, because it's very common now to launch vehicles and do ride and drives from estates.
It's
But I'm thinking 2004.
Yeah, it was unheard of. Yeah, people really didn't do it. And you're too young anyway, so shut up, Luke. So
no, it was definitely like just even looking back on it, I was like, wow, we put together something really interesting then.
So all the cars here are for sale.
Yes.
And that's your specialty is finding, or what would you say your specialty is? It's finding the cars, or do people call you and say, listen, I need you to find me an Enzo with under 1,000 miles on, and then you go to work?
Yeah, I would say that's our specialty.
So locating.
Locating, also being, we don't really, we're lucky in the sense that we've had other businesses, my partners and I, to able to underwrite sort of the overhead of the facility. So it's not like this is a turn and burn business for us where we have to take any inventory imaginable and make it profitable. So we're very lucky in the sense that we can be very picky. Up until recently, we had never taken a consignment car because honestly, it didn't match our sort of our image and our mantra.
Your business model, yeah.
And so I think we have like two, 3, 4 consignment cars now, like as a normal dealership would. So that's our specialty. It's like we focus on very high quality, interesting stories, and we've built a really great following so far. And
do you deal with only like 100-point perfect cars, or do you buy like barn finds and fix them and restore them? Do you get involved in any of that?
Yeah, so we actually, it's cool. We found a Miura S in a barn about 2 years ago now. That not to be confused with the other Miura S that was found in a barn, which I think we both made a lot of great
There's one
press.
in Long Island right now.
Oh, no way.
Well, yeah, one of my father's clients.
When are we going? Like, what are we doing here?
One of my father's clients, she owns a wig company. She's about 97 years old, still works to this day, and her husband bought a Miura many, many years ago. It's in the garage with golf clubs laying across the top of it, and she refuses to give it up. Not because of the value.
For her.
Not because of the value, but because it reminds her of her husband.
Wow.
And all the good times. Yeah, I offered her, I said, I'll give you 100,000 cash for it. And she's like, no, I'm not ready yet. I said, well, you're 97. And I hate to say it, but...
Yeah.
The longer I wait, it could be an issue. I don't want it to turn into a part of the estate. But so anyway, so you were saying, so you found one 2 years ago?
So yeah, we found a car literally in a barn 2 years ago. It sat since 71. And we pulled that car out of the barn, and we were planning on doing a full restoration. And I think there's a level of like you either do a full restoration or you leave it completely preserved as a survivor. And that's a struggle, like when as a
it's a decision you got to make, and you got to live with it, and you have to own it, and that's it.
Right.
Especially you can't go back.
Yeah, especially when you're going to these shows and you see over restored vehicles where it looks too new. It's where is the line? Do you have one?
So what was the choice?
So to me, so we did not restore the car. Okay. We actually ended up selling it as is. I mean, it was literally there was like bird seed in the exhaust. There was we sold it.
It was original.
It was original. I mean, the paint was all cracked. I mean, it was a really cool piece of history. And then we'll have a car like the SV that's downstairs where it needed some work. It needed some mechanical work, so we did like a mechanical restoration.
Right.
But the interior is original, and I love, to me, paint is one thing because paint is very subjective, and it could be, you could paint a car 30 times, but there's something about the original interior that patina is so impossible to duplicate. So I love to find a car with original interior. I mean, that's exciting.
It's exciting to think about who else has driven this car.
That's what I always love. I mean, even like the really old cars, like a Model T or something. Like somebody back in that era drove that car on like cobblestones. It's like really cool shit to think about.
I completely agree. Our mirror actually came from South Africa, from this like crazy World War II bomber pilot. And it's like, you think about it, it's like, dude, this guy was flying through South Africa at one point in this car. Like, he touched all. So it's interesting. I agree. I agree.
It's very cool just to think about who's actually sat in them and driven them, and who
Even
knows what else they've done in them.
I mean, I've been in like Fangio's SLR, but I've also been in vehicles that I do not know who the original owner is, and I imagine stories, and I feel like trying to take myself back into this time period, like, would a female even be driving this car then? Probably not.
Probably not.
So I have to ask you, to date, what do you think your most valuable find is?
So the most valuable, I would say, we found the last Enzo production car.
$399.
Yeah, $399 of $399.
But is that true? There's only $399 because there's a lot of stories about that.
So there's a lot more. There's a lot more.
Yeah.
But what was interesting about that car, and why I say the most valuable, because looking back, I think it's to me that story is interesting. No one believed the story on the car. We took a huge risk, and I was told by the gentleman that paints Zanassi every Enzo for Ferrari that no, this is the car, and he's like, I'm 100%. And I ended up, we bought the car and did 3 months of research. Like, oh my god, like, I hope it's the car.
Right,
but,
you don't want to put it out there and get egg in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we were able to document it, that it was a cool story. This guy, Mario Petrella, like, told Ferrari, I want the last production car. He got the last production car, and then obviously they made more. But it was one of those things where you're like sort of up against people like, it's the
skeptics. There's always going to be skeptics, yeah.
And then when it's documented and proven, and we ended up selling it, and then after, like, everyone starts calling you like, yeah, that was the car, we'll buy it,
It's a lot harder to prove without the digital records that we have currently. Now you can pull up VIN numbers easily.
Yes.
Yeah, there's registries and stuff like that, and then there's cars that are nowhere to be found and you can't locate them. I actually have one that nobody can locate. I have a 87 GNX, a Buick Grand National, which is on the original MSO, which has never been...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which has never been recorded anywhere, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it's interesting because I go on to some of the registries and it says, number so-and-so missing, not accounted for. So, I haven't done anything with it yet. Yeah, I look and I'm like, yeah, that's mine. I know that's mine. But you don't want to list it. I'm very hesitant.
Right.
But I've had a couple of offers. We'll see what happens. But there are so many cars out there that are MIA, and that's how they wind up being these barn finds. Like, look, this Miura is sitting in this woman's garage. It survived Hurricane Sandy because she lives in an area that got flooded. How it missed her house, I have no idea, because I helped her with the insurance claim. So when I went to the house, the car was still intact. Like, the water didn't touch it. It was crazy. It was crazy. It's on 4 flats, just sitting in the garage. And I'm just like, oh my God, I just want to kill her. Anyway. But, it's interesting, these barn finds, because like I said, you never know. There's another story. There's a school teacher on Long Island, lives all the way out east in Bellport. I don't know, Vinny, you might know where Bellport is. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house, and it has a detached 2-car garage. And in the garage, they have an original Ferrari 250 and an original Cobra, a Cobra coupe. Daytona. Yeah, the Daytona.
Oh my God!
And they're both original, both under 3,000 miles, and he is the original owner of both cars, and he refuses to part with them. He's been offered millions and millions of dollars, refuses to part with them. He was offered, I think, $51 million on the Ferrari.
Wow.
He refuses to part with it because he said, I don't want to deal with the whole tax implication. I'll let my kids deal with it when I die.
Holy. Yeah.
He's a retired school teacher. It's a true story. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And a friend of mine who's in the same business as you are with, buying and selling and finding these rare cars, he has seen them, touched them, felt them.
He's moved into the guy's driveway.
Yeah. And he's gotten him offers. Certified checks. He will not give them up.
No, but it's wild because a lot of cars. I've been searching for actually a specific Miura SV for about 4 years, and imagine with my dad's contacts, my contacts, it's completely gone. It's literally off the face of the earth. Technically, we can't find it.
Yeah, it's crazy, and then all of a sudden they'll turn up one day, and it's amazing because you really, some of these cars, they turn up at auctions and you just never know they existed.
It's true.
It's wild. It's true. It's really wild. So where do you typically look for cars? Do people contact you, or do you search?
It's funny. I used to search.
Sniff out old people?
I used to search no.
You get calls from doctors in the ER and say, listen, some guy just got in here. He's wearing a Ferrari pennant and
And since we've been open and since we've really promoted who we are and what we are, I've actually gotten a lot of really good leads. People have contacted us and called us. It's almost wild. It's made my job a lot easier, but it's almost a little wild. People.
It's also hard to find buyers to cut the check.
You just said it, and I think people know that now.
Yeah.
We'll cut a check.
Right.
We'll write it. Oh, these guys are serious.
Right.
But I would say I still spend a good 10 hours a week searching, and it's sometimes stupid things like Googling a VIN number of a car. I'll identify a type of car, a certain car. You know what? I'd love to corner the market on these or look for this, and anything. I think. You can't even underestimate sometimes. I've found some really great cars on Auto Trader that someone posted an ad with no photo and it looks like a scam, and you call, and so you never know.
I found some weird shit on Craigslist just out of the blue.
You never know.
I found a Mercedes 190 with a Cosworth in mint condition, and I wound up buying it for $3,500 from some guy in Jersey. Yeah, and I flipped the car right away because I didn't want to deal with the mechanics of it. And I bought a Mercure XR4Ti from the same guy. Yeah, the doctor owned one owner, and so you never know. And it had a pile high of records. It's amazing. Yep. Some of these people.
Yeah, it's true.
A lot of people also don't want to deal with selling. They don't want to deal with people and tire kickers and people just ogling over the cars.
A lot of people want to sell to people they know as well, that they can keep the history and the heritage going.
Yes, agreed. And that's tough too sometimes as well, because we are a retail. Right. Outlet, and I will say it's we have not hired any salespeople yet, because I also feel like
you're hands-on, you're doing it yourself.
Yeah, and we have a responsibility. Perfect example, we had the big nightclub owner in town, Dave Grutman, from Live and Story, and very successful guy, restaurateur, entrepreneur. And he came in and he's like, I gotta have a Countach. I want a Countach, the Cannonball Run car. And he's not a car guy. And I'm like, this is not a car you drive all the time. Like, this is not the car for you. And you have to be a little responsible, you know? So we ended up finding him something that I think is just as cool and it's just as, but it's
personality.
It matches his personality and it's just as unique and rare and it has the ability to increase in value potentially. So it's like, you have to be a little responsible because you can't just get in a Countach and drive it.
No.
Like it's not like a, and we make sure that the right cars, and I've even had a couple collectors want to buy stuff. We had an E-Type that was never titled, never registered with 1,000 original miles. And a big tech CEO wanted to buy it, put new wheels and tires and start driving it. I was like, no.
So is that something you're looking for? Is someone who may return the car back to you in a great condition?
Of course.
Yeah. Just build the clientele, revolving door, take them back, sell them again. Do you find yourself overpaying for cars?
Of course.
Always. A lot of people, listen, if it's something that you want and you have to have it, people are willing to pay a premium for it.
And honestly, I think quality is everything, and when you fall in love and it's the right car, right colors, it's like,
You ever get burned?
You know what? I've been very lucky and I'm very cautious, very, very cautious. I've almost gotten very burned on a few deals, but man, I'm very cautious. Like, and most of the time I go and I have to touch and feel the car myself.
Right.
That's important.
Do you take other, say a Porsche specialist or a Ferrari specialist with you? Maybe someone who worked in the same era or on the vehicles themselves?
So I would say we have a list of cars we specialize in. Mm-hmm. When it comes to Porsches, I call somebody else.
Okay.
When it comes to, it's not like we sell a lot of American muscle, but if it does come up, immediately I know who to go. Like, I know the Shelby guy.
So, it looks like your specialty is Lamborghini.
Yes. Lamborghini, I call my dad, I grew up around, when my dad was in business, he was the Tubi dealer. So I grew up around F50s and F40s. So I know those cars very well myself. Diablos, I know them very well. It's like, it's a car I grew up around and I could be like, oh, I remember that car. That car got hit on the door, right. I know that story. Wait a minute.
The SE30 was in DuPont almost every single month for Albertoni advertisement.
Yes.
Yeah, because he was like the first one to create an exhaust for the Diablo.
Yes. Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah, he was, and I don't even know if he's still alive today.
He passed away a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, but he was like the man. And then you've got, there weren't that many. There was the infamous dealer in Orange County, right?
Vic Cullinan.
Cullinan. And then you have, I think, Evans Automotive is pretty big with Lambos.
George Evans, yeah. George Evans is.
So there's not that many. I had been I talk to Brett David all the time. And his father was like the pioneer for Lamborghini down here. But I remember him telling me a story that some guy bought a Countach from his father, but never took delivery of it. He paid for it. And it sat in a dealership for about 30 years.
Yes. And actually, the car recently sold.
Okay, so it's a true story.
It's a true story.
It was an anniversary, I think.
Yeah. And actually, we were thinking about buying the car, and it came to our place for an inspection from the current owner.
It was like brand new, the car. Right?
Well,
maybe not anymore.
No,
It sat,
No, it's essentially, it has like 200 miles.
Yeah.
It's wild, but it sat too long. It needs love.
Yeah, they deteriorate when they sit. These cars, all the seals, everything.
It's a true story.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
I know the car. Yeah.
I figured you would. That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, I know the car.
I'm going out buying cars all the time, just leaving it on the showroom. I got no use for them.
Now, is it true? Because I read conflicting stories. The Wolf of Wall Street, that Countach was a legitimate Countach, I was told.
Yes.
And they did wreck it.
Yes.
How do you feel about that? Being a Countach aficionado.
I'm going to say something controversial. No.
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
You know what? I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest fan of that 25th anniversary car. Mm-hmm. There's a personal opinion. They made a lot. I still think it's an incredible car. I'm not saying anyone should damage a 20th anniversary, but you know, like if it's the more common Countach.
Right.
You know, if someone did it to a Periscope or an 85 2-valve with no miles, I would die.
LP 400 or something.
Yeah, like it's like there's one of 200, you know, one of 100. But man, guys abused those cars back in the day.
Terrible. I mean, nobody ever thought it would be what it is today.
You know?
I mean, at one point, I was at a dealership and we had grabbed a 25th anniversary Euro with the funky front spoiler and everything.
Yeah.
I think we paid $65,000 for it.
Nobody wanted them.
Yeah, and what's that worth today? You think?
You know, they range.
400,
it ranges. It totally ranges in price based on miles and condition, but
and what somebody is willing to pay, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. And a lot of our listeners, you know, when I speak to people, they don't get it. You know, they say like, you know, I could have bought that car for $90,000, and now it's $580,000. I don't understand, because it's what people are willing to pay. You know, there's no price you can really put on these items. It's what somebody is willing to pay. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you can't reproduce it. That's another problem. A house you can reproduce.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, a house, you buy a piece of land and you can make a duplicate of it. These cars you cannot reproduce.
No. And the right car, and that's why, honestly, the interesting cars with incredible history, very low mileage, they bring strong money. Mm-hmm. I mean, someone could say, oh, look at what the values of these are bringing. Well, like there's outliers without a doubt. I mean, you're going to see I always say, like, the cream rises to the top, the really interesting stuff. If someone is in love with it, they'll pay the money.
Any particular cars you're searching for right now that maybe one of our listeners might have sitting in their barn?
Always.
Anything come to mind?
I'm a huge, we love early Countaches, the carbureted cars. So I'm always looking for low mileage early Countaches. Always looking for more Miuras. We're always buying Miuras.
So is the rest of the world. How many Miuras were produced?
So about 150 SVs, 150 S examples, and then
there was an SVJ, wasn't there?
Yes, which are about 6.
Yeah.
So it's very, very rare. Ben Chen, actually.
Yeah, I know.
He bought one.
Yeah,
he bought one.
I know.
Yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah.
He has the EB110, by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. We actually had the discussion about EB110s before we bought this car, and I mean, I think we're always looking for interesting stuff. Like, I think a very cool car is Lamborghini Silhouette, the precursor to the Jalpa cars. Mm-hmm. They only made like 70 something. It's a cool car, you know, in history. It's a Targa.
Yeah, I had the opportunity. I drove a 400 and a 350, which were kind of cool. Yeah, those are cool cars.
Cool cars. Yeah. Very classy.
Yeah, quirky.
Yeah, very quirky.
Quirky, but cool cars. And a friend of mine had a Jalpa, and then I have a car club back home in New York, and there was a woman that used to come all the time. She was a dentist. She had a pink Espada.
Yes, yeah, she's famous.
Yeah,
she's famous. That's so funny.
Yeah. From Long Island with a pink Espada.
She takes it to a lot of car shows, too.
Yes, every one of my car shows she takes it to. She still has it. She doesn't daily drive it, but close to it.
No way.
Yeah,
that's
close
cool.
to it. She drives it all the time. But parts are hard to source sometimes, so she's a little cautious.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. But, so you currently have this collection here. Where do you advertise?
So we advertise everywhere from Hemmings, DuPont Registry. We do a good amount of social media work. A lot of it is word of mouth. Collectors hear about something interesting we have.
It's kind of a small community, really.
And it's really a small community.
And how many? I mean, when people find out you have a certain car, I'm sure you get calls like, "Hey, I heard you just got this car. You got this car. How much you want for it?"
I mean, it's tough sometimes because, like, to keep inventory, it's like, it's a balance of when something first comes in, you get a great offer, and you're like, wait, I wanted that a little longer. It's like it was tough. We recently sold our CLK DTM.
Nice car.
And I mean, honestly, that was tough. I was like,
you didn't want to part with it.
Yeah, we got what we wanted, but I was like, huh.
Yeah, I had a Renault R5 Turbo too, and I bought it really cheap. It was a great find. I had been bidding on it on eBay 10 years prior.
No way.
And I lost it at the last second. Back then, you could snipe a bid. And I lost it by like $5. And I was like so pissed. The car was coming from Seattle. I was so pissed. 10 years later, only 400 more miles on the car. I found it in Florida, the same exact car. In fact, when I bought the car, he gave me all the history on the car. And in there was a printout of the eBay ad that showed what he paid for it.
I love it. That's history. That's great.
Yeah, it was great. But it's great to have all that documentation.
Yeah, right.
That helps sell a car.
It helps.
So I bought the car, and I only paid like $1,000 more than what he paid on eBay. So it was a total score. So I had this car, loved it. Used to drive it, take it to car shows, and it was just so epic because there's so few of them because people just abused them, and there weren't that many that came into the States. In fact, everybody from France now wants to buy them back from the U.S.
Right.
So I had this car, and then just out of the blue, somebody saw it on Instagram, contacted me, and offered me like 4 times what I paid. And I was like, shit, I really don't want to get rid of it. Like, I really kind of like this car, but it was too good not to get rid of it. Guy flew in on a private jet to Long Island, came to my place with a bag of money and said, here's my offer.
No way.
And I said, I just can't do it. So he's like, all right, look, I brought another 10 grand with me, but that's all. That's all I'm going. So I wound up getting, 4 times plus 10. So I let it go. Yeah.
But it is tough. There's sometimes that it's like, I would have liked to keep that a little longer. I mean, honestly, I'd keep everything that we have right now if I could, but let's face it.
It's not a good financial decision sometimes. No. Do you drive a lot of the cars?
You know what? If I lived somewhere else, I'd drive the cars more. Miami traffic is horrid.
Yeah, we're finding that out the past couple of days. It's like kind of like, what's going on? Yeah, when you go towards like the Everglades, that's where the roads are.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like maybe on a Sunday morning to go get coffee and like a cool little drive. But it's just people don't respect it. You know, I had a GT3 RS 2011 manual. That was my personal car. It was like my baby. And one day I go park away from everybody, and a lady pulls fucking right near me and scratches my front bumper. And it was like, dude, like, stuff like that doesn't bother me because shit happens.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, just be like, there was a whole parking lot. You didn't have to park right next to me.
That.
Right? It's, so it's just tough. People in Miami, and I don't think, culturally, and I could be wrong. I mean, I'm not from the West Coast. But I think, culturally, I think people value classic cars and appreciate classic cars maybe in California. I don't know. It feels that way.
It depends on where you are, seriously.
Yeah, it does. Like in New York, there's a lot of classic cars, a lot of collectible cars, but people don't drive them or use them really because
the whole Northeast.
Yeah,
There's
right?
So many collections up there, but you'll never really see them come out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right.
That's too bad.
There's like a lot of McLaren F1s up there, but you don't see them.
True. That's so funny that you say that about the GT3 RS because I had a 4.0 too, and no one ever realized what it was, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's just a Porsche. Let me throw my door into this. Who cares? Run the
right." And it's like, wait a minute, no.
So what do you drive now?
So man, you're gonna. Wow, this is embarrassing actually because I went.
Plus.
You're gonna laugh. I
We'll
went
edit
from
that out if it's a Prius.
a Diablo SV as a daily driver. Terrible decision, to a GT3 RS, best car I think I've ever had as a daily driver. No, 2011. Yeah, 3.8. Loved that car. Yeah. I should never have sold it. Then I went to an SLS. I got completely bored with the SLS.
What?
It looked pretty.
Well, it wasn't a black series.
It wasn't a black series. No. I wish. And I got bored. Like it wasn't the GT3 RS. So I was like, I'm gonna sort of follow my business model. And I went and bought a 355 Spider with no miles, manual, and a Diablo Roadster with no miles. Terrible idea. You cannot daily drive those cars.
No, that's kind of tough.
In like the middle, and I bought them right in the middle of summer. So it was like 98 every day.
Oh, no bueno.
No.
Yeah.
So I got a little frustrated, and I got a G63. I went totally practical.
That's totally opposite.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm not technically proud of that today, but I just traded it for a 993 turbo.
Well, there you go.
So I'm going to go back.
That's a good trade.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm going to go back to something that is still practical. I can use it around Miami.
Has air conditioning.
Has AC.
Maybe a cup holder. Things that are important.
So, but the G63 is it's great. It's an awesome truck, but it's not who I am. I can't daily drive that.
So where do you see your future? Sticking with this for a while?
You know what? Honestly, it's a blessing. It definitely feels like a dream. It's totally surreal to be in, like, actually have a dealership like this. I could be doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Hopefully longer.
Yeah. Hopefully longer.
What does your dad do now?
He just plays with his cars. He's retired. Yeah,
he's got a little collection of his own.
He's got a little collection, but he's got some interesting
pretty
stuff.
Serious, yeah.
Yeah, he actually has so in 72 he bought off of the New York Auto Show a Miura SV new.
Wow.
Awesome.
And he put that away, and he has a Countach that he put away with 100 miles, and he's got some cool stuff. I'm not allowed to touch it, get near it. You've seen the cars? Yeah, so Vinny's one of like 9 people that have ever seen the cars.
Nice.
I asked him to bring it to one of my car shows once, and he goes, "If it's inside, roped off, like with AC, climate control." I'm like, never mind.
A security guard on each corner.
Yeah.
So he still carries on with the tradition of the Temerian tradition.
I'm on the phone with him 3-4 times a day, troubleshooting and asking him questions, and so. But yeah, he's retired. He plays with his cars.
Cool.
So I have actually a question about this space as well.
Yep.
It seems like there's a members only top floor that you have. Can you explain what goes on this floor?
So the second floor essentially is, we wanted to create a home and a hangout for car collectors. Think about it, golf guys, they go to like the country
golf
club.
club.
Yeah, the golf club. And you know, horse guys, they have like a members club at the equestrian, but it's like, where do car guys go? Yeah, they go to car events and such. But we wanted to create something that was fun, a place for car people to go, and like-minded people. We actually are building a vintage car library of like vintage DuPont registries and like some vintage car books, and we'll have like a full bar for people. We don't condone drinking and driving, but we'll have an in-house tailor, an in-house barber, like so something fun. A guy could hang out here all day on his laptop. You know, sort of be around cars.
That's cool.
Only guys.
No, I said guys and you.
Guys and you. So now, do you do storage here too of cars and things like that? Or?
No, so we have our old facility. Actually, we store some cars now. Mm-hmm. So we have a collector that we've helped build his collection. He has some really cool cars there, and but the storage side is tough because these cars, the batteries are always dying. And
You have to turn them over all the time.
all the time.
Put the
Yeah, you got to move them for you get flat spots and tires. I store some cars in my shop.
It's a whole nother business and job within itself. Yeah,
it's a lot.
We have enough headaches.
It's definitely a lot of work. So now I saw you have is there a rental company here or something?
Yes. So when I originally started and moved to Miami, it was actually to build a company called Lulavi, which was an exotic car rental business that became like an art gallery, an exotic car rental. And we grew that at one point to about 32 cars.
Wow.
And
is that like a ride share or is it a car share or is it a strictly rental?
Strictly rental. And we were one of the few companies in Miami that like we owned our cars, we insured our cars. Just Miami's a tough business for that.
There's a lot of it going on. I know a lot of the guys that got involved, a lot of scammers that got involved.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I used to own a transporting company. I used to move cars back and forth for one guy, which I'll tell you off air who that was. But there were times we'd go to pick up cars and people were like, "What are you talking about? This is actually my car. It's not a rental. What are you picking it up for?" And I'm like, "We're supposed to transport it down." He's like, "No, I spoke to this guy about taking over my lease. Is that who you're talking about?" I'm like, "Oh, okay. So let me go call him." Yeah. So there's like a lot of shady people in that business. They're not insured properly, and it's a bit of a mess.
I mean, we scaled back because one, we couldn't compete with someone that like guys that don't have an office or insurance or own a car. Mm-hmm. Like we can't compete with that. So we scaled back a lot. We have about 10 cars now, and honestly, we scaled back because it's just. The industry is like the wild, wild west, and to a certain extent, I'm passionate about cars. I'm most passionate about this,
right?
And I like to offer a product that is superior and a great product. And
a lot of those companies that rent cars, those cars are junk.
and you know, it's
I don't even want to talk about it.
It's
junk.
You know, it's tough too because we used to buy literally every 6 months. We used to turn over the cars and. It's almost impossible to do that now with the reality that guys are just borrowing private owners' cars. Like, you know, like you can't compete. You know, it's like a 458 should be $2,000 a day, not $400 a day. With like,
it's true. Well, I mean,
miles.
there's new apps and things out there where you can just put on your car and then do it directly, like Airbnb
Turo or something, right?
Oh yeah,
Turo, yeah.
Do you get involved in any of the auctions, like Barrett Jackson or?
I had, you know what? We tried to sell one car at auction. It was not a good experience.
It's tough. It's tough.
It's like, man, they're the 800-pound gorilla.
They suck you dry too.
Yeah,
they take some chunk.
I mean, I feel like the quality of cars here would be more RM or Gooding even. Like
I'm not going to say any names, but no. I felt like we got muscled, and it's tough. I mean, I'm not. God bless those guys. Yeah. It's just not my.
I bought with the company that I worked with the Diablo Momo edition.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, we bought it from Barrett Jackson back in 2008.
Wow, you bought it at the right time.
Yeah, we paid I think 110 for it. 110. Had no miles. I mean, the thing looked like the Ronald McDonald Mobile.
Yeah,
it was a red one. It was a red one.
Right.
You either had red or you had yellow.
The red is actually pretty on that car. The Rosso Vic. Yeah, it is cool.
Which is named after Vic Julian.
Of course.
So we brought the car back to New York, and there was a bidding war on it. These two guys wanted it. It was crazy. And the short version of the story is one guy got to the finish line first with the money. He wound up with the car, and the other guy had a total breakdown in the dealership. Like, was hospitalized because we sold the car to somebody else. He was laying on the floor, hugging the table, the leg of the table. We had to have the police come, ambulance, everything.
No,
this is so serious.
This is very serious, and he is still Momo to this Roadster. Day.
This is serious.
He is still to this day in litigation. With the dealer, and the other end user passed away. Now the car is tied up in probate court. And the car was seized by the Nassau County Sheriff's Department in Long Island, and it is sitting in storage for 7 years. 7 years.
What a story!
And it's still in litigation to this day. And the guy that had the breakdown, he is actually it's so crazy. He's a clown. This is what he does for a living. He's an actual He's an actual clown. He's an actual magician that dresses as a clown that does parties for the rich and famous and gets paid all sorts of crazy money to do this. And he went bonkers.
Still giving him nightmares to this day.
Bonkers. It was a crazy story. I watched this whole thing unfold all for a Momo Diablo.
I love it.
Oh my gosh.
Love it.
Yeah, so the car's still sitting at the sheriff's office, and maybe one day it'll go up for auction. There's actually a funny story. There's a Countach sitting at the NYPD police impound since 2004. Yeah, it's like melting into the ground. It was a Dominican drug dealer who was at a nightclub, and a shootout broke out. And he ran. He wound up getting arrested. He was held on $5 million bail. He got bailed out, and he went on the run. He's been missing ever since. So because the case has never been resolved, the car is still sitting in the impound. And it was on a temp tag. He had just bought it. He bought it from Kerbeck.
Wow, no way.
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So there's one of the missing Countaches. Wow. It's crazy.
A Countach outside is probably melted into the ground right now.
It is, legitimately melted into the ground.
Pulled away,
it's awful. Anyway, we're gonna get this wrapped up. This was really cool to check out the place and the cars. We're gonna take some other pictures and
cool.
Maybe we'll take that EB110 out tonight and we'll bring it back tomorrow. I should have brought my dealer plate with me. But thank you for spending some time with us. I know everybody's time is very valuable, and we appreciate it. Where can people find you online and on the internet so people know how to look you up?
So it's pretty easy. We are curated. WeAreCurated.com or at We Are Curated. So we're on Instagram, all the social media feeds, and check us out.
Cool. So I guess that's it. Do you have anything else to add, Elizabeth?
No.
Thank you. A shout out to Vinny Russo for bringing us here. Thank you, Vinny. Vinny's the man. So thank you again for being on the Car Lifestyle Podcast. I'm Seth Rose. You can find me at Exotics Rally on all platforms. And
I'm Elizabeth White, and you can find me at It's White Noise.
And with that said, that's a wrap.
CarLifestyle.